Hi Terra Mystica fans, and welcome to the fourth video in my Terra Mystica record score videos. If you're not familiar with how this series works, I suggest you first watch the first video in the series by clicking the link above. Okay, let's get straight into the game setup for this video. As usual, today's game was a 4-player game that took place on the original game board and involved the mini expansion, which includes the 4 extra town tiles, the temple round scoring tile, and the shipping scoring bonus card. Our record scoring player today is Janus Jester, playing in seat 2. In seat 1, having already chosen the halflings, we have Li Wei, I think, and then player 3 is Loku, and player 4 is Michelle. So you can see, guys, the round scoring tiles displayed on the left and the bonus cards as usual displayed at the bottom of the screen. So remember that player 1 has already chosen the halflings. So now's the time, guys, to pause the video and see if you can guess yourselves which faction Janus Jester actually chose in this game to score a record score for this particular faction with this setup. Remember, it's a 4-player game played on the original game board with the mini expansion. And this is a record score on the Snellman site. So guys, I'll now give you a few clues to help you with your decision. So clue number 1 is Janus Jester at the end of round 1 had opened with a temple and 4 dwellings on the board. Clue number 2, and a vital aspect of Janus Jester's strategy in this game was the use of bonus cards 6 and 7. Bonus card 6 is the Sanctuary Stronghold bonus card, and bonus card 7 is the Trading Post Scoring bonus card. And the third clue is that this faction can score extremely well, and does so, of course, in this game with the use of workers. So guys, the faction that Janus Jester picked was the Dwarves. So right over the other side of the colour wheel there from the halflings. And then Loku chose the mermaids. And then player 4, Michelle, what did she pick? She chose the alchemists. So very strangely, colour sandwiching herself there between the brown, the halflings, and the blue, the mermaids. I would have expected her to perhaps chosen a yellow faction or a red faction. So a very nice setup there for the Dwarves with no colour neighbours and all his opponents being matched next to each other on the colour wheel. So let's take a look at the Dwarves player board. Now the Dwarves are quite a strong faction in Terra Mystica, but they don't often get picked. Let's have a look at their special abilities. So their special inherent special ability is they have the tunneling ability. Dwarves cannot upgrade their shipping, so they rely on tunneling to spread around the board. At the beginning of the game, when you start off with the Dwarves, it takes 2 workers to perform a tunneling action. For each tunneling action, they get 4 points. But once you have built your stronghold, then the expense for tunneling from 2 workers then reduces down to 1 worker. You still get 4 points for tunneling. So this is quite a strong scoring ability. The other thing to notice with the Dwarves is the trading posts. The first trading post gets 3 coins income, and also the 4th trading post gets 3 coins. So their trading posts are quite economical, just like the nomads have quite economical trading posts, and so do the engineers. As I said, the Dwarves don't often get picked, and one of the main reasons for that is the other grey faction. Dwarves are a grey faction. The other grey faction is the engineers, and of course they are very flexible, and they can upgrade their shipping. So as the Dwarves rely on tunneling, because of this, they tend to be quite easy to get cut off if one of their hexes. We'll have a look at the game board and see where they're likely to get cut off, but that tends to happen. So that is really a weakness of the Dwarves. And the other reason they don't particularly get picked very often is that the engineers are also a strong faction, and they tend to get picked ahead of the dwarves when looking for a grey faction. And another thing to bear in mind really with the dwarves is that they can be quite competitive in the cults quite early in the game, because they don't need to use their priests to upgrade shipping, so they can certainly deploy them into the cult spaces and take advantage of some of those early game cult bonuses. So I found myself wondering, when should you pick the dwarves as opposed to the engineers? So let's have a look at a few dwarves games that I found on Snellman. The first one here is on the Loon Lakes map, and a dwarves victory, a rare dwarves victory. We look at this. There's the extra scoring tile in this game, a cluster scoring tile, which of course the dwarves with their tunneling ability would play well for the cluster scoring. Also, we see that in the first and second round there's Earth Cult bonuses there. So dwarves, I think they start on the second step on the Earth Cult, and so this is obviously an advantage if there are early Earth Cult bonuses. But looking at this game, it's actually a very interesting dwarves victory here by Matt the Lesser. He's obviously gone for the cluster scoring. Probably started, one of the initial placements was probably D4 and jumped over to D2, then C3, and then B1. But I mean, I don't really see dwarves getting picked on the Lakes map. And so it's very unusual in that respect. But the other thing is, look at the round 5 scoring tile. It's Sanctuary Stronghold. And he's not even built his Sanctuary or his Stronghold in this game, and still managed to win the game. And the Stronghold for the dwarves is usually built because it reduces the cost of the tunneling action. So an amazing victory really for Matt the Lesser in this game. Very interesting. And a second game here. I was looking through the Fire and Ice ladder games, and I don't think I could find a victory apart from the previous game we just looked at for dwarves in the upper rungs of the Fire and Ice ladder. But here's another one. This one is a joint first place, I suppose. 142 points here, drew with the cultists. And we have, again, cluster scoring. This is not on the Loon Lakes map. This is the Fjords map, a very popular map. Now, I think I find quite a few people actually do pick dwarves rather than engineers on this map, but I haven't seen really any evidence that the dwarves are particularly stronger when looking at the results. Again, it's cluster scoring, and I think people would choose the dwarves on this map, my guess is because of the large land masses and being able to sort of tunnel across, thinking that perhaps the tunneling ability might be more suitable rather than the shipping ability with the large land masses. But again, as I say, it's not really proven by the results of the dwarves, in at least in the Fire and Ice ladder games that I've looked at. So on to the next game. This game I was actually involved in, and the dwarves actually came in second in this game. It's Sanctuary Stronghold distance scoring in this game, which didn't really suit the dwarves quite so well as the cluster scoring. But didn't really get the victory. But it was just another example of dwarves being picked on the Fjords map rather than engineers. Now, perhaps engineers might do a little better on this map, actually. But okay, next example. I found this game by Sivok, and a victory here. It's not Fire and Ice ladder, but again, it's on the Fjords map, and there's no extra scoring tile. But again, there's an Earth Cult bonus in the first round. So that's something to look at. And the next game I have here, again, a dwarves second place. Again, another example of dwarves being chosen on the Fjords map. We have cluster scoring again, and also we have Earth Cult bonuses early on. And the next game is an example of a grey faction being picked, which was not the dwarves, it was the engineers, and a much clearer victory, 173 points, much higher than any of those dwarves games scores on this Fjords map again. So Ozymandias really had a convincing victory with the engineers on this map. So obviously engineers can play well on the Fjords map. So the other thing to bear in mind, of course, when choosing which grey faction would be the bonus cards in the game. And as the Dwarves can't upgrade their shipping level, they don't have a shipping level. As such, they will not benefit from either of the two shipping bonus cards. That's bonus 4, the shipping level bonus card, and bonus 10, the shipping scoring bonus card. So preferably those two bonus cards need to be out of the game when picking the Dwarves. Dwarves would benefit from bonus cards that provide workers, as obviously workers are very useful for their tunneling actions. And also the trading post scoring bonus can, if you're going to be leaving some more trading posts on the board, then that can provide a few extra points for those trading posts. The trading post scoring bonus card, which is bonus 7. And another thing I should really mention is having Sanctuary Stronghold scoring somewhere in the middle of the game, because upgrading to that Sanctuary Stronghold will of course reduce the cost for doing the tunneling action. So having that somewhere in the middle of the game would also be useful as a round scoring bonus. So back to the game in question in today's video, Janus Jester's record scoring game, and here are his initial placements on E7 and F6 here. And he's got plenty of neighbors on the eastern continent there. He has the Darklings and the Cultists. And on the central continent, again, he has the Cultists and the Mermaids. Now, he's obviously going to get plenty of power throughout the game from all those neighbors. And not too much, really, competition for hexes apart from the Mermaids. Now, the places for towns, there's an easy place for a town there on the eastern continent, F6, E9, D7 and C5. The second town, there are also plenty of hexes available there across the central continent or bridging across to C2 and G3. Perhaps the cultists might be looking to take G2 possibly, but they're more likely to form a 3-town hex on E6, F3 and E5. So really I think the competition for hexes for the Dwarves is going to come from the Mermaids. Now there's a third possible sneaky little town location that I've seen the Dwarves form on a couple of occasions, and that's down in the bottom right corner down there, H8, I11 and I12. Sometimes the Dwarves will tunnel from F6 down to H8 and then dig I11 and I12 and put a sanctuary there and form usually a late third town, which is a very handy little spot there down in the corner, because other factions rarely go down there. Sometimes the Darklings will, but generally it's a nice little spot for a third town if you can get that. So, as I've already mentioned several times in this video, joining up the network for the Dwarves is the quite a tough challenge later on in the game. Usually once they've already built their stronghold and tunneling, it just requires one worker. They'll tunnel across to H6, then I9, and then hopefully they can get that G3 hex joining up their network. But obviously in this game, the Mermaids are in pole position to take that G3 hex. And another way they could potentially join up their network would be across the north, C3 and C4. But again, the Mermaids are looking favourite to take both of those hexes. And as the Mermaids start with a shipping level of 1, of course that C4 hex looks to be taken by them. Also the F4 is under threat as well, so the Dwarves are going to have to watch that one. So as I say, the biggest risk in this game for the Dwarves is what hexes the Mermaids can take of C3, C4, G3 and also F4. Obviously we would expect the Mermaids to take the majority of those hexes, but the Dwarves player has two concerns really. The first one is forming a town on that central continent, and the second one, as I've said before, is joining up the network with the tunneling action. As for the round scoring, the Earth Cult bonus in round 1 is very useful. The Dwarves start on spot 2 on that Earth Cult. The Spade bonus in round 1 works well for them. Trading post in round 2 is also good with those economical trading posts that the dwarves have. Round 3, sanctuary stronghold scoring. So if the dwarves have managed to develop their economies, they can build 1 or 2 of those structures. Round 4, trading posts, which is pretty useful again. And then we have dwelling scorings in round 5 and 6, which of course lends itself to high scores. Not just for the dwarves, but for other factions as well. So now it's time to choose bonus cards, and in seat 4, the alchemists, played by Michelle, chose the dig bonus card, and second, the mermaids, Loku, chose the sanctuary stronghold bonus card. So now it's Janus Jester's turn to choose his bonus card for the game. So you might want to pause your video again and see if you can choose which one he chose. So the answer is Janus Jester chose the 3 power and 1 worker bonus card. The extra power there obviously lines him up for taking a dig power action in the first round, especially it being a dig scoring round. And finally, the halflings chose the 4 coins and 1 cult step bonus card. That cult step is especially useful to get 1 more step up, that earth cult in round 1. Finally, we've got the game underway now. We're into round 1. And on his first turn, Janus Jester, playing the dwarves, took the single dig power action and converted E9 to grey, building a dwelling on there. And after that, he upgraded that dwelling to a trading post. Then E9 was then upgraded from a trading post to a temple, and he took the Earth 1 favor tile, favor 11, scoring 2 points for each dwelling built through to the end of the game. Then in his 4th turn, he was lucky enough to get the double dig power action, action 6, and he converted D4 to grey and built on D7. He then built a dwelling on D4 before passing out of the round, taking bonus card 7, which is the trading post scoring bonus. Very nice going into round 2, a trading post scoring round. And finishing the round with a temple and 4 dwellings, giving him a nice economy, and also having taken both the double dig and single dig power actions in the first round, being a spade scoring round. A very nice opening there for the dwarves. So Janus Jester's dwarves began round 2 with 6 workers, 5 coins, and 1 power in bowl 3. His first action was to send his priest to the air cult, grabbing the 3 spot there. And he was also able to leech quite a bit of power, enabling him to take the 7 coin power action, action 4, on his second turn, so boosting his coin economy. Then he upgraded E7 to a trading post, then F6 to a trading post, D7 to a trading post, and then put a dwelling on C5, forming a town. And he took the town 2 town tile, which is the 7 victory points and 2 worker town tile. Then he passed out of the round, taking bonus card 6 this time, which is the Sanctuary Stronghold scoring bonus card. Another very useful bonus card going into round 3, the Sanctuary Stronghold scoring round. Janus Jester began round 3 with 7 workers, 8 coins, and again only 1 power in bowl 3. But he was able to leech enough power to still take that 7 coin power action on his first turn. And then on his second turn, he upgraded the trading post on E7 to a stronghold. Then in turn 3, he upgraded the temple on E9 to a sanctuary. He took favor tile 12, which scores points at the end of the round for trading posts on the board. And completing a short and sweet round there for the dwarves, he passed out of the round, grabbing bonus card 7 again, the trading post scoring bonus card, going into the 4th round, another trading post scoring round. Into round 4, and Janus Jester started the round with 6 workers and 9 coins. He also had 2 priests, and in his first turn and second turn, he sent those priests to the air cult, shooting him up to spot 8, so he will benefit from 2 digs from the cult bonus at the end of this round. After that, he took the 2 worker power action before building a dwelling on C2, then upgrading the dwelling on D4 to a trading post, Then he built on h6 with a tunnel action across to there. Remember, it's 4 points for each tunnel action in the game. He upgraded that dwelling on h6 to a trading post, and then he passed out of the round taking, again, bonus card 6, the Sanctuary Stronghold scoring bonus going into round 5. So at this stage of the game, Janus Jester would have certainly been worried about his second town and the ability to join up his network. The mermaids have already taken C3, C4, F4, and G3, all of those green hexes that I pointed out at the beginning of the game. But that still leaves D6 and E8 to join up the network. So for his 2-spade cult bonus, he decided to convert E8 to grey. So into round 5, and on his first turn, Janus Jester built a dwelling on that E8 hex. On his second turn, he took the single dig power action at 5 and terraformed D6 to grey, building a dwelling there, so joining up his network. Then he sent a priest to the air cult, taking all the 4 steps on that air cult and winning the cult at the same time. Then he took the bridge power action, bridging over to C2, forming a town and taking the town 3 town tile, which is the one that provides 9 victory points and 1 priest. Then he passed out of the round taking bonus card 7 again, the trading post scoring bonus going into the final round. Beginning the round here with 8 workers, 17 coins, 2 priests and 5 power in bowl 3. A nice economy in the final round here. His first move was to take the single dig power action and build on G2. Then he built on G1, followed by I9 before taking the priest power action, sending a priest to the fire cult, then another and another priest to the fire cult, moving him up to spot 6 on the fire cult level there with the alchemists. Then he used a tunnel action to build a final dwelling on I3 before passing out of the round to complete the game. And getting 14 structures there on the board, he was able to take the 18 points for the network scoring. He was also able to get 14 points from the cults. And the final scores here, Dwarves 195, Mermaids in second place with 129, Halflings 121, and the Alchemists in fourth place with 108. So in conclusion, a very nice game there by Janus Jester playing the Dwarves. He certainly took advantage of the scoring bonus cards 6 and 7 through the game, and he was able to develop a very nice Dwarves economy. So that's all for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed that analysis, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.